There's no question creating a collection in Lightroom and then adding images to that collection is incredibly easy. But why go about adding images to a collection when you can have Lightroom do the work for you? Yes, it's true. Lightroom is so smart, it's able to populate a collection for you automatically as long as you provide some instructions up front. This is made possible through the magic of smart collections. In this lesson, we'll take a look at how easy it is to create a smart collection that enables you to instantly view a group of images that match a particular set of criteria. Smart collections are found in the Collections pane of the left panel in the Library module of Lightroom, so we'll scroll down on the left panel to get started. In the Collections pane, you'll see that there's already a collection set called Smart Collections, and it contains a series of existing smart collections. For example, we can see all of the images that have been colored with a red label, all of the 5-star images, all images captured in the last month, etc. These are all fine, but we're going to push the limits here and take a look at a more interesting way we might put smart collections to use. To get started, we'll click the plus button at the top right of the Collections pane. Then we'll choose Create Smart Collection from the pop-up. This will bring up the Create Smart Collection dialog where we can specify the parameters for our smart collection. In this case, I'm going to create a collection that will contain images captured with a relatively slow shutter speed. So I'll call this Slow Shutter Speed. I can also choose a set that I'd like this particular smart collection to be included in. Since there's already a set called Smart Collections, it makes sense to put this smart collection into that collection set. So I'll choose Smart Collections from the pop-up. I can then determine whether I want this smart collection to include images that match all of the criteria I'm going to specify, any of the particular criteria I'm going to specify, or none of the criteria if I want to only see images that do not match a certain set of criteria, for example. In this case, I'm going to choose all so that only the images that match all of the rules I designate here will be included in the smart collection. Since I want long shutter speed shots, I'm going to choose from the first pop-up the shutter speed value. For that, I'll scroll down to the bottom of the pop-up and choose shutter speed. I don't only want images that match a specific shutter speed, I want any image that's below a certain shutter speed. I can specify this parameter by choosing one of the options from the pop-up. The default is, in other words, that whatever the value I've chosen is a particular value, or is not a particular value, is greater than or less than, is greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to, or is in a particular range. In this case, I want a shutter speed that's at or above a particular shutter speed, so I'm going to choose is greater than or equal to. I'll then specify that that shutter speed should be greater than or equal to 0.25 seconds. I'm actually most interested in images with a relatively slow shutter speed, but also with a relatively large angle of view. So I'm going to click the plus button to add an additional piece of criteria. In this case, I'll choose the lens focal length. Not the lens, that would be the particular model of lens, but the focal length so that I can choose which focal length was used for each of these captures. In this case, I'll want it to be less than a particular value, and let's say I just want it to be less than 150 millimeters. With my criteria specified, I can now click Create to produce this smart collection. When I do so, the smart collection will be created, and any image that is managed by Lightroom with a shutter speed of less than or equal to a quarter of a second and a focal length of less than 150 millimeters will be included in this smart collection. So I'll click Create and take a look at what we've ended up with. As you can see, I have a variety of images that were captured at relatively slow shutter speeds. And anytime I add a new image to Lightroom that matches these criteria, they will also automatically be added to this smart collection. In theory, of course, you could bypass smart collections altogether and simply apply filters whenever you need to view images that all share common properties. But that involves setting a filter each time, which in some cases can be rather tedious. Smart collections can be thought of in many ways as a saved filter, and they are so powerful I can't imagine any photographer getting by without them. I promise you, once you give smart collections a try, you'll want to put them to use as often as possible.